I think I speak for every MMA fan when I say that the main event for UFC 319 is awesome, and in a year where we consistently get the opposite of what we ask for from the UFC, it doubles as a morale boost for those that have been frustrated with the sport as a whole. For a lot of fans, it's viewed as Khamzat Chimaev's official arrival, the chance to finally be recognized as the unstoppable monster he's been built up to be since he broke the record for the quickest turnaround between UFC wins in the modern era by annihilating John Phillips and Reese McKee back-to-back with only 10 days in between back in July of 2020. And it could very well be that, but it could also ruin him completely and be the anticlimactic end to his career. And while this may sound like I'm being overly dramatic, it's actually a very real possibility, and in this video I'll break down why.
The guy's special. I've been in this game my whole life. I've never seen anything like him. He's special, he's different, he wants to fight again. So, you know, I've never been in a position where I'm like, who's next? How do we get him a fight? How do we get him over here? How do we do this? How do we do that? It's fun and I like it. And I think when you're a fight fan, a guy like this is the type of guy that you love to watch and follow and hate, you know, and whatever it might be. This guy is one of the most special fighters I've ever seen, if not the most special guy that I've ever come across. It's just I've never experienced that with anybody ever. Not even close, not even remotely close. Listen, it's one thing to say I want to turn around, but, you know, not like this.
As you can see by this 2020 clip of UFC President Dana White, Khamzat Chimaev's debut was marked by a tornado of hype where the sentiment wasn't just that he was a great fighter, but that he was an actual juggernaut, and it was only a matter of time before he steamrolled the middleweight division. And while a lot of it was due to Khamzat's impressive early performances, it was also a matter of him coming into the company at a time where the hype around Khabib Nurmagomedov was at its highest, and the UFC just couldn't pass up the opportunity to draw parallels between the two, trying everything in their power to capitalize on the arrival of a bigger and seemingly meaner and stronger Khabib. And with Khabib officially retiring just 3 months after Khamzat's debut, they supercharged the promotion to try and fill the void left by one of their biggest superstars in their most popular weight class, leaving on top and rejecting the plethora of potential super fights that were guaranteed to make the UFC hundreds of millions of dollars.
Because I think Khabib had so much more to offer and so much more to accomplish. But I think when his dad passed away, it kind of sucked the fun out of it for him, and he was done. Plus, he made so much fucking money, he never has to do anything ever again.
Unfortunately for the UFC, Khamzat ended up getting COVID, which morphed into a full-blown lung infection, leading to several hospitalizations and bouts of being unable to breathe, keeping him out of competition for over a year, and even driving him to put out an official statement of retirement during a particularly difficult time. But he did make his way back to the UFC eventually and was able to pick up 5 consecutive victories, competing in both the welterweight and middleweight divisions, with the last one being particularly impressive, breaking the former middleweight champion Rob Whittaker's bottom row of teeth with a face crank in round 1. And because of that, a lot of fans seem to be under the impression that Chimaev will absolutely obliterate Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 319, especially considering the fact that Whittaker was able to take him down the year prior, and that is all the proof you need that in the world of MMA, you're only as good as your last performance. Because leading into the Whittaker fight, there were a lot of whispers about Khamzat being overrated due to his tough showing against Kamaru Usman, who was coming up a weight class from welterweight on 9 days notice, where Khamzat was unsuccessful in 8 of his 12 takedown attempts and seemed visibly tired despite it being a 3-round fight. Additionally, these same whispers follow Khamzat after his performance against Gilbert Burns the year prior, where he once again left the fight looking battered and exhausted after 3 rounds. And that's the drawback of being hyped. The public perception of you is always at one extreme or the other. You're either unstoppable or completely overrated. And despite beating the number 2 guy at welterweight while himself being ranked number 11, it was Khamzat that walked away with a big dent in his reputation, because his brand was built on being a monster and he didn't live up to it that night. So going into his DDP fight, he finds himself in an extremely vulnerable position on the biggest stage of his life, where his only real option is to quickly destroy Dricus, because otherwise, even if he wins, his performance will be considered underwhelming if he shows any signs of struggle, and it will be career ending if he ends up losing losing or even looking vulnerable, because the intrigue of watching him fight is built around the idea that he's a destroyer, and if that's gone, then so is the interest. We just saw it happen with Shavkat Rakhmonov, who lost all of his hype after having a close fight with Ian Gary, and Alex Pereira, who was everywhere last year and now barely gets mentioned after looking subpar against Magomed Ankalaev. And it's not exclusive to modern times either. Renan Barão was on the verge of being crowned the pound-for-pound GOAT before losing back-to-back fights to TJ Dillashaw in 2015, and now people barely know who he is. Just listen to how much enthusiasm Dana White exhibited when he talked about him back then. It was every bit on par with how he talks about Khamzat.
He's a killer. He comes in and tries to finish you. Almost 10 years.
Yeah,
almost 10 years. It's like 35 straight fights. He hasn't lost in almost 10 years. Never been taken down in the UFC. His finish rate in those 35 fights was 70%. His finish rate as a champion is 100%. You know, it's very impressive.
Living with that much pressure has to be brutal, but thankfully life is an MMA, and while Khamzat can't count on anyone but himself, you can always count on today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, to be in your corner. Did you know that children are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and research is potentially linking ultra-processed foods to these outcomes? Morgan & Morgan is stepping in to fight to hold food companies accountable. With decades of experience fighting large corporations, Morgan & Morgan is ready to stand up for families who deserve justice. If your child under 21 has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or fatty liver disease, hit the link in my bio to learn more. It takes only a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you can do it all from your phone. The problem for Khamzat is that, objectively speaking, nobody can be as good as he's been built up to be, so he's essentially swimming upstream with every fight, being judged on how spectacular he looks as opposed to whether he wins or loses, while his opponents get graded on the curve and get praised for just being competitive, and leave the fight wondering what the big deal about him was in the first place.
You build him up in your head, then you get in there and you go, that wasn't special. There was nothing different that I haven't seen. But it was after the end of the fight, it was just in my head saying, why? Why did I doubt myself? Don't do that again.
Intimidation is a big part of MMA. It's no coincidence that previously undefeated fighters almost always start losing consistently after being beat once. Cody Garbrandt didn't just regress physically overnight at 25 years old when he lost to TJ Dillashaw, but seeing him in that position opened up the floodgates, as other fighters who were previously cautious of his seemingly inhuman knockout ability now knew for a fact that it was possible to hurt him and fought him with a lot more aggression. And for Khamzat, aura is a huge part of what makes him hard to fight. People see what he did to Robert Whittaker and build up a terrifying image in their heads, despite the fight itself lasting less than 4 minutes and not showing us much of anything. And Whittaker himself stating that the injury was more of a result of pre-existing damage than anything Khamzat actually did. But when the psychological aspect is taken away and fear is no longer a factor, we get a much more objective look at how the fight might play out, like this official prediction from Gilbert Burns.
That guy gets so freaking tight. I know he's working his conditioning right now, but he's that one speed fighter. Bro, he gonna come like a freaking truck at you. He's gonna be a truck coming 1000% super strong. But
you think he's actually gonna do that in the first round, or is he gonna save his energy?
I think that's his speed. I do believe he might take Dricus down, might control him a little bit. I don't believe Dricus will get knocked out. I don't think he's gonna get cut. I don't think he's gonna get finished. I do believe Dricus is gonna fight through all that, get strong, get up. And I think if he's slowing down the way he's slowed down against Kamaru, against me, against a couple other fighters that the fight went late, I think it's a nightmare to fight Dricus like
You think there's a chance it goes 5 rounds?
It is a chance, because that's the way I said it.
The truth is that regardless of whether he wins or loses, Khamzat is not the boogeyman in this fight. Dricus Du Plessis is. He's incredibly strong, awkward, dangerous, and has a borderline limitless gas tank. And if Khamzat isn't able to get him out of there in the early rounds, there's a big chance that he doesn't just make him look human, but absolutely exposes him on the world stage and strips him of every bit of his aura and mystique. And losing isn't going to ruin Dricus one bit. He just has to look competitive, and people will automatically award him with a moral victory, while Khamzat, who is already talking about becoming the first 3-division world champion in UFC history, is at risk of ruining his brand if the fight is in any way close or if he's visibly hurt at any point, and he seems to be well aware of that fact himself, showing Dricus a lot more respect in the lead-up than we've seen previously.
Oh, everyone says it's weird style, weird. That's MMA style, so I don't think it's some crazy weird, but he does his job. He does good, and he's a good fighter. I'm better.
Not only is this an incredibly tough matchup for Khamzat, it's also a sink or swim moment when it comes to his career due to the persona that he and the UFC have built around him over the past 5 years. All of the pressure is on him. He has no choice but to look unstoppable, otherwise UFC 319 will go down as being the beginning of his end, and there isn't much that he'll be able to do about it. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. And if you want to support the channel further, become a member by hitting join if you're on Android or desktop, or the link in the description if you're on iOS.
He is a special fighter. He's incredibly good. Jeez, I can't wait. This win for me is going to be history. I am going out there and I'm going to shock the world once again. Like every other time, and everybody said it's impossible. Not this guy, not this guy. And I'm gonna go out there and you're gonna see the boogeyman. You're gonna see him break. You're gonna see him break in there, and then realize there's only one boogeyman, and that's me. In the middleweight division, there can be only one boogeyman, and that will be me.